Hello, I'm Stephanie. I'm the Chief Operating Officer. My colleagues and I will be presenting our strategic and business plan for the implementation of an ultrasound training and compliance program for high-risk obstetric patients at UAMS. The slide shows some background information on UAMS. To summarize, it is Arkansas's only academic health sciences center with a vision to become the healthiest state in the region by 2029. The strategic issue driving this project is that ultrasound is not routinely used for neuraxial anesthesia in high-risk obstetric patients. The lack of standardized training and lack of use of ultrasound in this population contributes to multiple attempts at placement, delays, and patient complications. Our initiative strongly aligns with statewide maternal health priorities and goals of reducing maternal complications in Arkansas.
My name is Suru Awaichihe. I'm Chief Financial Officer. Strategic planning requires evaluating UMS internal strengths and challenges. A summary of key strengths and challenges are presented in the next table. First of all, our strength, like my colleague Stephanie said, UMS is the only academic medical center in Arkansas with advanced technology and specialist access. UMS has a strong support for maternal fetal medicine training with exciting ultrasound and simulation resources. UMS collaborates with MFMM, OB, GYN team, aligned with UMS mission to improve outcome. As opportunities, statewide need for better maternal outcome creates strong demand and funding opportunities for this project. Advance in imaging and AI can enhance training quality and program effectiveness. Tele-ultrasound outreach enable standardized care and reduce maternal morbidity statewide. That's our goal. But this project also has some weaknesses. For instance, we have lack of standardized training, limited protected time, and staff turnover. Some providers think that use ultrasound prolongs surgery time. As threat, frequent guideline update and rising regulatory demand, economic pressure and healthcare cost constraint could reduce institutional support for expansion and for this project.
All right, my name is Christian Villatoro, and I serve as the Chief Compliance Officer. As we look at our gap analysis slide, this slide tells us our goal, our current state, and where we want to be. Again, to restate, Arkansas faces critical maternal health disparities and widespread obesity among pregnant women up to 65%. Current practices rely on landmark techniques, which leads to increased complications and inconsistent workflow. The routine use of ultrasound-guided neuroaxial anesthesia directly addresses these gaps, offering safer outcomes in obese and high-risk obstetric patients. Next slide.
Hi, my name is Anna. I am the stakeholder advocate. This is the stakeholder identification, which is our key stakeholders, and they are the anesthesiologists, resident anesthesiologists, and student nurse anesthetists who will be trained and help sustain the program. Labor and delivery nurses are essential for workflow and patient safety. The chief nursing officer, chief financial officer, and chief clinical officer guides the resources, approval, and alignment with organization priorities. Rural and partnering hospitals help extend consistent practice statewide, and patient and families benefit from safer neuraxial anesthesia, and our grant agencies and funding partners supports the financial foundation of the program. In our stakeholder analysis, this is our executive leadership, which is the chief nursing officer, chief financial officer, and chief clinical officer, which has the highest influence, and through the resource they provide influence and approval and strategic alignment. Anesthesiologists, residents, and student nurse anesthetists have a strong interest as a primary user and are the primary learners. Labor and delivery nurses influence workflow and communication, while rural hospitals support statewide consistencies. Recognizing each group's influence and interests will help us guide effective engagement. In my table, as you can see, engagement of the anesthesiologist, residents, and student nurse anesthetists focuses on the hands-on training, skill development, and clear workflow expectation. As for the leadership, such as the CNO, CFO, CCO, they receive the updates on outcomes, financial impact, and alignment with goals. Labor and delivery nurses participate through workflow planning and feedback. As for the rural hospital, engage through the shared training and statewide quality improvements effort, and the patient and families are supported throughout this whole communication and safety benefits, which will improve the outcome.
To summarize our project, we propose a standardized program for all anesthesia providers. Neuraxial anesthesia is the preferred method for obstetric patients, and training strengthens both clinical outcomes and financial sustainability. Our goals include training 100% of anesthesia providers by December 2026 and achieving ultrasound use in more than 90% of eligible high-risk obstetric patients. Next slide. For this project, we created a clear set of deliverables, KPIs, and metrics to evaluate both clinical and financial impact. Curriculum approval is expected by March 2026. By December 2027, we anticipate at least 15% decrease in OB anesthesia-related costs. Clinically, we're aiming for 20% improvement in first pass success rates and a 15% reduction in neuraxial complications. Quarterly training audits will be ongoing. This all will give us a strong framework to monitor performance and demonstrate the program's long-term value.
Yes, for demonstrate the value, we did a feasibility, and the average score is 3.5. And for our desired state against the current state, which is 1.3. So that proves our project is really feasible to do. Thank you.
Next, we will look at mandates. Listed are federal and state regulatory bodies that UAMS must stay compliant with to determine how easily UAMS can adopt and sustain this ultrasound initiative. Compliance with the CMS and the Joint Commission will tie reimbursement and accreditation to quality metrics, competency, and maternal health outcomes. OSHA, FDA, and HIPAA will determine how machines are stored, maintained, and how sensitive patient information is protected. Lastly, UAMS must ensure providers hold proper licensure, credentials, training attestations, and malpractice coverage in order to protect the organization, provider, and the patient. Next slide.
The project runs from January 2026 through December 2027. The Gantt chart maps out all phases to ensure timely, cost-effective completion.
Implementation of this project will be conducted using a cost-effective approach. As evidence, you can see that the furniture and equipment only use 7.45% of the total budget. And also the pre-implementation will only use 23% of the total budget. And we are asking you for a $116,790.
All right. To summarize our cost-benefit analysis, it is important to look at our CBA ratio, which is 1.18. This indicates that implementation is the financially smarter and clinically safer strategy for UAMS in its high-risk obstetric population. Implementing ultrasound provides higher clinical value, and the cost of implementation is moderate and predictable. As we look at the process evaluation table, this process will include collaboration between the Chief Financial Officer and myself to monitor implementation progress across key domains using scheduled audits to ensure outcomes align with current guidelines and UAMS safety goals. In order to successfully achieve this, we will use clear data sources to track performance, identify deficiencies, and take action.
Outcomes will be tracked through regular reviews of success rates, complication, financial impact, and stakeholder feedback.
In conclusion, implementing this program at UAMS is a practical, impactful initiative that promotes safety and increases maternal outcomes across Arkansas. We recommend expanding ultrasound-guided practice into additional anesthesia services and extend this program across UAMS-affiliated hospitals and regional sites to broaden the impact statewide. Thank you for your time.